All right. Okay, hi everyone. Thank you so much for coming. So thank you, Seth, for introduction. For those of you who doesn't know my work, I'm a fine and conceptual photographer, and I specialize in conceptual female, like surrealistic conceptual female portraiture. And I usually shoot it on location, and I strive to go beyond traditional portraiture to tell imaginative stories through my art. And I never just take a photo. I usually use photography kind of like as a way of collecting material to create something that's not possible to capture in camera. And to kind of like create these images, I use setups, props. I travel to real locations. I build up sets. I use props, installations, costumes, and then of course, Photoshop manipulation is essential in my work to kind of like create these compelling images. And today I want to show you a demo on self-portraiture because I do a lot of self-portraits as well, not just, working with a model. And I'm going to show you how I, from start to finish, how I shoot it, how I approach my process, and how I edit it. So a little bit of history, like why I started doing self-portraiture in the first place, because I haven't done it when I first started photography. In fact, I wasn't doing self-portrait for first maybe like 4 or 5 years, like no self-portraits at all, because I thought that being behind a camera would give me much more control, like full control of the process, all the settings, all the composition, and etc. But then 10 years ago, I moved to the United States. I'm from Ukraine originally, so I moved to the United States. And well, by nature, I'm an introverted person, so it's really hard for me, not really, but it's hard for me to reach out to people, to connect, to communicate. So I struggle a little bit with that. But then, moving across the ocean to a foreign country, it was really difficult at first, especially. I had, language barrier, mental barrier, all sorts of barriers. So it was really hard for me for the first period of time. And that's when I thought, like, hey, maybe I will do self-portraits because it's going to be so much easier rather than, reach out to a model, organize a full photo shoot. Complete photo shoot. So I decided to do self-portraiture. That was my first reason. But then as I started doing it, I was like, hey, I really like it because there are so many kind of like benefits to it. First is that now I can see my images kind of like an alter egos. I've always seen my models as my alter egos because my images are kind of like my fantasy world coming to life. So I was like, hey, me being in front of the camera, making it even more personal, maybe making myself as being a part of my own creation. And that was really cool, being a part of that image, that, idea, concept. But also there are some other benefits because when we travel with my husband, for example, we go on vacation or just, travel somewhere. We love traveling. We do it like at least a couple of times a year. And I absolutely love unique places. This is one of my sources of inspiration. I'm inspired by nature and travel and all sorts of like unique places. And every time we travel somewhere, I do research. I come up with itinerary. I do Google search of like places, tourist attractions that are there. And if I see some unique location, I sometimes get inspired by it. And I'm like, wow, this is really cool. Maybe I can use this location as a part of setup, as a part of a concept. And that's very convenient because I don't need a model. I don't have to reach out to local models and then arrange a transportation maybe or organize a photo shoot, the whole logistics of, bringing another person. It's just me and my husband and that's it, and my camera. It's very convenient. We just go out there, we're on our own schedule, we do whatever we want, and then I just take a self-portrait. It's really, good. Plus, most of the time you have to pay a model, right? Because, they spend their time and, effort. It's a good thing to pay them. And in case of self-portraits, you don't have to. You just get yourself a dinner, like celebratory dinner or something. So that's also like a benefit. And what else? Also, when you license images, I often license images for articles, magazines, book covers, whatever, and all these, big companies, especially big companies, they require model release. And I don't know about you guys, but how many of you sign model releases? Let's be honest, not all the time. Sometimes I forget, and sometimes that can be like a hustle, especially if you shoot somewhere abroad, then you need to chase down this person, email them and say like, hey, could you please send me a model release? And they would be like, maybe not respond, or be like, oh, then maybe you should pay me more for the, model release. That happened to me before, but which is fine. Like, I mean, I get it. But my point is that doing a self-portrait, you don't need to go through all of that. You just sign model release yourself as a model, as a subject. So that's also convenient. Yeah, and I think that's like my main reasons why I started doing self-portraits. And, being an introvert, using myself as a subject, as, being part of my own creations, and just convenience, just as a part of convenience. Yeah, I guess that's it. As a little story behind. And today I want you to show how I approach self-portraiture. And there are a lot of different ways how you can do self-portraits. One way is to have a friend, or in my case, a spouse, who would do a self-portrait for you, which is, again, very convenient, especially when you travel. I hate carrying gear. I'm a small person. I don't like carrying gear. It's heavy. It's, I try to avoid gear as much as possible. So I try to avoid tripods. They're heavy, they're bulky. I don't like them. So it's really convenient when we're out there on location with my husband. What I do, I imagine the composition. I see this location. I'm like, perfect. So I use him as a test subject, as like a test person in my shot. So I tell him like, stand right here, and I take a test shot with like, composition and everything. And then I give him a camera and I show him the shot and I tell him like, do exactly the same, but with me instead on the same spot. And, he does video, so, he knows what he's doing, about cameras, about composition. So that one of the options that you can do while doing self-portraiture. The other option is, of course, you would need a tripod. If it's just you, nobody's helping you, then, of course, you will need a tripod. And you can use either a remote control, or you can, of course, do a timer. But I don't like timer. I've never used timers because you have to like run back and forth. And then it's only like, I think, 10 seconds stops that you can set the timer, which sometimes is not enough, running back and forth, because oftentimes I need to click the shutter, then run back and then pick up the props or something else. So, 10 seconds is not enough. Or what I usually do, I use my cell phone. So I establish Wi-Fi connection on my camera and I connect with my cell phone to my camera. And I use it as a remote control. And it's really convenient because first of all, I can change all the settings on my phone. I mean, most of the settings. I can change it on my phone. I can set the timer on my phone because, again, when I click the button, I still need a few seconds to like put the phone down and, grab something. And I can see the photo. I can see the shot because it's like live view thing going on from my camera to my phone, which is very convenient. I guess there's a question.
Someone in the chat's asking, they see you using a constant light for this. Do you use that for self-portraits mostly, or strobe?
Well, to be honest, I'm a natural light photographer. So because I mostly shoot on location, I work with natural light, and I set up my shoot during the end of the day, during the sunset, or when it's overcast. And I would maybe use a reflector, or if it's very dark, sometimes that happened to me, like maybe I'm in the woods and it's really dark, I would use a strobe, but I prefer continuous light. To be honest, I'm not that good with working with light. And for my type of photography, it doesn't really require, light. I usually use like very simple setup, one light, 45 degrees, if it's dark, just for the purpose of lighting up the set. Or I would use a light kind of like a part of a setup, if it makes sense. Like I would use it kind of like as a prop. I would use a light. So I remember I have an image where I used a plastic sphere, like a globe, which is an actual light modifier for 360 degrees light to shoot interiors. So I use it as a prop. I put a strobe inside of it and I flashed, and then I converted it into a moon. So that's what I mean when I use and yeah, just continuous light I prefer because I can see right away what the light situation, how it looks, and I don't know, just prefer continuous light.
There's someone also asking if you use continuous shooting burst mode and get a few shots, or you just do single shots.
I normally do single shots. Using the phone is really convenient because, there's no movement. So I don't need like a multiple, like a series of multiple shots. I take a pose and I do the click and then I take a look and that's pretty much it. I guess I answered the question. All right. No more questions for now? Okay, I think we're good. So I've already in my dress prepared for the shoot. So I usually, if the outfit, if the styling is not a part of a concept, I usually opt for timeless, vintage-inspired pieces because, we want our photography to be timeless. We don't want to use modern clothes as like graphic t-shirts because, you never know. It looks cool now, but maybe in 5-10 years, it will look old-fashioned, outdated, and it will look, cringy. We don't want that. So I always opt for timeless, vintage-inspired pieces. You don't have to be like authentically vintage. You can just get, this is not authentic. This is like from Amazon. But it's vintage-inspired. And I always usually opt for like, I avoid busy patterns and bright, like busy colors. I prefer one tone, muted colors like white, blue, pink, whatever. But I usually prefer like, unless it's a part of a concept. If it's not, subtle, timeless, and not busy, like simple cut dresses, simple cut sweaters, coats, something like this. So I'm in my dress now, all ready to go. And what I prepared for you today, I have a little concept. So as a conceptual photographer, I like to play with associations and symbolism and things like that, metaphors to convey like abstract ideas, abstract intangible ideas. So I usually like to take a like ordinary object and kind of look at it from a different angle and think a bit of it like take an ordinary object and think of it as something else. What can what kind of association I can apply to it? What can I turn it into to create this kind of like surrealistic, image? So, so what I did today, I thought well, maybe I can, because it's a very simple setup. We have like a seamless backdrop. So I really want to concentrate the attention to the prop. And I thought about what can I, use and convert into something. And I thought maybe I can do like a huge fruit or a berry of some sort. And I'm a strong advocate for using real props as much as possible and shooting on set as much as possible. Because first of all, props, even if they're like simple, just, the shape or a color, like simple stand-ins for something, they are really helpful for further compositing because they give you natural interaction. For example, if a model holding something, it creates a natural interaction like hand position and placement instead of like, hogging the air, which could make like arm positioning weird and not natural, not realistic. And the prop would give you like a natural, interaction. Plus, props create natural shadows and highlights, which are also can be really tricky and hard to imitate during compositing, especially when you're using stock images. It's really hard, to find the right stock image that would perfectly match with your scene, and then you would probably still need to spend some time during editing to like match shadows and highlights. So props help with that. Plus, they create. If it's colored, you can create color casts and things like that. So let me show you what I mean. So my idea today was to create a giant blueberry. And I was thinking like blueberry is, it's a sphere, it's round shaped and it's blue. So what I can use, I guess I could probably build a fake prop blueberry out of a papier-mâché or something and, like paint over and create like kind of like, a resemblance. But I'm not that crafty, to be honest. I'm a little too lazy. For me, it's easier to do that in Photoshop. I guess you can, maybe and spend some time and look for it online. And maybe there's, props out there that like realistic looking, because I was able to get an apple from Amazon before, but it was like not this big. It was bigger than the real apple, but still not big enough. I wanted something really big. So it was like this big. So maybe there's blueberries out there somewhere, but again, I couldn't find it. So I was thinking like, what can I use instead that is round, sphere, blue, and lightweight? Because again, I don't want to carry a lot of heavy stuff. And I thought about paper lanterns. And this is what I have today. They're very lightweight, they're compact. You can just, transport them like this. and then you know, fold them out and they become a sphere. So that's what I'm going to use today. Yeah, so here, this is your blueberry. Of course, this is not blueberry, right? It's, the surface is textured, but we need, like a base for further editing. And this is what I'm talking about. Because I'm going to be holding like an actual blue sphere, first of all, it's going to create natural interaction, like hand positioning. It's going to create maybe like natural wrinkles on my dress because I'm going to, hold it close to me. Maybe it's because it's blue, maybe it will help with like blue color cast because colorful objects, they cast the color onto nearby surfaces. And it will create like shadow on my dress, on my arm, things like that. And then in Photoshop, it will be pretty easy, at least for me, to transform it into a blueberry. And I want to go even further with that. Instead of using like maybe a stock photo for that, like put your blueberry texture on top, I'm going to be using real blueberries. And I will photograph one of those right here, right now, with the same setup, with the same lighting, with everything. So it will be really easy and pretty seamless for me to do it in Photoshop. Just, take this blueberry, cut it out in Photoshop just with a simple elliptical marquee tool, put it on top, maybe like mask it a little bit, and, that's pretty much it. And this blueberry prop will help me with like my shadowing. If I need to adjust my shadows a little bit, I will be able to see like, okay, I can see that here, right here might need to be like darker. All right, so that's what I'm going to do. And because I want it to be a little bit more conceptual than just, me standing with a blueberry, I want to use some body paint. Kind of like the juice, like blue juice coming out of the blueberry. So first of all, let me put this down on the floor. Well, first of all, I'm going to put dark navy lipstick on my lips, kind of like maybe I took a bite and I stained my lips with a blueberry, this kind of idea. So I'm going to do this first. I'm not gonna spend too much time, but to give you guys an idea, I can always fix it in post. Okay, and it's a little old lipstick, so it's a little dry, but it's okay. Okay, I'm almost done. Okay, all right, that's good enough. And the other thing I wanna do, I wanna stain at least one of my hand. And I got the body paint. And right here, I have a little cup. I'm gonna pour a little bit of water in there. Maybe there's a question while I'm doing this. Nope, that's okay. All right. Yeah, this one is new, not opened. I'm using black and blue because I've done this before with just blue paint and it was way too light. And our blueberry, they tend to be like on the darker side, kind of like almost black. So that's why I want to mix those two together.
So someone's asking if you used a different color lipstick, how much harder would it be, or a different colored lantern, how much harder would it be to make this happen in post for the blueberry?
I mean, it depends on the color. If I aim for like, dark blue, it would be really hard to convert opposite to blue, which is like yellow or red color, into blue. But I could probably go away with like dark green or dark purple. That would be pretty easy to just, shift the hue a little bit, selected shift the hue. But I would not take like red or yellow because it would be really hard to, plus it will cast the color on me, which is again, I will need to adjust. All right.
But while she's doing that, if you're in this chat, there's like 100 of you, and I bet you're not all subscribed. Anya feels better when you guys subscribe. She gets paid by likes, so make sure you like
And comments.
and comment. Yeah, she lives for comments and affirmation, like the rest of her generation.
All right. Oh, that's too black. Okay. So the idea is that, you know, I grab this berry. Oops, I made a mess. Oh, but still, it's okay. I have wipes. But the idea is kind of like the juice is dripping down. Okay, it's a little messy, but I have wipes over there. Okay, I'm gonna give it a second to like dry a little bit. All right. Okay. That should be fun to now operate my camera. All right. That's fine. Okay, so now let's set up the camera. Okay, so the camera is on. Now I go to the menu and I choose connect to smart device on my camera, and I choose Wi-Fi connection, establish Wi-Fi connection. And then I go and grab my phone. And I choose the app for Nikon. I shoot with Nikon, the Snap Bridge for Nikon. And I choose remote photography. Oh, no, hold on. No, I forgot to connect to my camera with the Wi-Fi. There you go. Now it should be good. There you go. Okay. Let me move this out of the way. And move this thing a little closer. Feel like it's way too pale. I'm gonna add a little bit of more paint, but less water this time.
While you're doing that, someone in the chat's asking, who would your 3 favorite artists be? Who are your inspirations?
My favorite artists?
Top 3.
Top 3? Oh, wow, top 3. In terms, let me name the photographers. I think it would be easier. So my top 3 favorite photographers would be Rodney Smith. He was really a big inspiration for me in terms of composition. He's a New York-based fashion photographer. The next one would be Tim Walker. He's, I think, he's a fashion photographer as well, but he does like these whimsical, real like props setups, like huge props setups. And he does like whimsical fashion photography. And the third one would be, okay, let's forget photographers. I would say, oh my God, what's his name? Completely fell out of my head. The director, filmmaker, Tim Burton. Oh my God. He, you know, introduced me to this like dark beauty and, you know, kind of like fantasy world. I really love his work. All right. I think should be, oops. I think should be okay. So I grab my phone. I can see that because we have all the lights here. I think it's fine. I just need to add a little bit of more body paint here.
So do you want that brighter or anything?
I think it's good. All right, let's see. Okay, let me move this out of the way so it doesn't fall on the floor. All right. Oops. Let me set the timer. Self timer is on. 10 seconds. Now let me do a test shot. Taking 10 seconds. Okay, and let me pull up. Here's my test shot. Okay, now let's try and do a couple of self-portraits. Double check the timer. Okay. Okay, now I'm gonna grab the prop, set off the timer. Okay. Maybe 10 seconds is a little bit too much. Let's try and do 5 seconds instead, so it's a little bit faster. Okay. Let's see. Okay, maybe a less evil face. And I don't like that's a little bit way too cropped in the bottom of the frame, so I'll move back a bit. Yes, I think that would be better because we have cable. Just a bit, To make sure that the focus is on my face. Okay. Okay, I like it. I just don't like this arm because you can't really see the paint, so I need to rotate it.
Someone's actually asking, is that paint glossy or do you try to get a different type of finish?
Hold on. No, it's just wet. When it dries, it's matte. It's just I just use way too much water, but it's not supposed to be glossy. But I mean, hey, it's juice. It's supposed to be, wet. Oh no, it's not in focus. All right, do it again. Maybe let's do 10 seconds after all. I just need one perfect shot. Okay. Okay, a little bit, one more. I'm gonna do a couple of more and then I think I'm good.
Can we put an apple box on there so the phone is higher?
Yeah, let's do that. Oh, and I need not to forget to photograph the berries separately. There's a little paint there. Oh yeah, this is much better, thank you. Much better. Okay, I can actually see now. Everything good. All right. Oh yeah, this is almost it. Let's do one more time. Okay. Oh yeah, I think I like this one. All right, let's not, we have limited time today, so let's not waste more time. I think that's good enough for the demo. I'm pretty happy with like everything. All right. Now let's photograph the blueberry separately. Okay. What I'm going to do, I'm going to switch my lens because currently I'm shooting with 50mm 1.8, and it's the minimum focus length is way too big. So I'm going to switch to the wide angle lens, that 28 2.8, and it has like shorter focus distance. So it would be better for me to get the blueberry a bit, bigger resolution. Okay. Should I turn off the camera? Okay, that's okay. We can establish the connection again.
Is there any questions while she's doing this?
Jesus. All right. You know what? Let me wipe off the body paint real quick.
Yeah. It's just a simple question. Do you have a flip screen on the camera, or is that something you can't rely on since it's like 6 feet away?
No, no, it's not a flip. Actually, I mean, it's a tilt. Yeah, it tilts a little, but it doesn't flip. Yeah. I don't think it would help because it's way too far and I'm short-sighted, so I would still need something like up to my face. All right. Okay. Almost clean. All right. Okay, what I'm going to do, I'm going to choose a pretty one. I brought options. Okay, can we move this closer to the camera?
Do you want this taller?
No, it's fine. I just need, closer, like maybe here, so I can put the phone down. Yeah, like right here. Yeah, awesome. Thank you. All right, let's connect to the camera
Do you want this
again.
light on the...
Well, no, actually, you know what? That's a good thing because we need to, no, that's a good thing you ask because we need to use the same setup, right? And I was standing there, so the light goes there. That means that I need to move my camera, not the prop. Makes sense? So let's move back. Yeah, this should be good.
Yeah, this will help you. Want to do like that?
No, it was good. Yeah, straight is fine. All right. Where's the Wi-Fi? Hello, there you go. It's connecting. Connected. Let's go back to our app, remote photography. Okay, now let's choose a pretty one. Okay, which one do I like? I think I like this one. Sorry, the Wi-Fi disconnected for some reason. Okay, there you go. And what I'm going to do, I'm going to grab a toothpick. I'm going to insert it into the blueberry. And I'm going to photograph it as close as I can. And I'm going to also close my aperture to make it as, as sharp as possible. More in focus. Let's try, yeah, a little bit more, please. Okay, and maybe increase ISO. Okay, let's try this. Okay, I think this is the closest that I can get. I'm just rotating it slightly for like different angles, just in case. Okay, and it looks something like this. Okay, I think it looks good. All right, and that's it for the shooting part. So we need to change this set a little bit because now I need to sit down, with my computer. I can turn off the camera now and my phone. I'm going to upload the photos. Get the memory card. Hold on, it's plugged to the outlet. Okay. While Seth is helping with the setup, let me copy the files to my computer real quick. Oops. Let me... Any questions maybe while we're doing this? Yeah.
When shooting your composite shots, do you find any advantage or disadvantage shooting with a macro lens versus non-macro lens for your details? Or is it you're building a lot more texture and stuff in post-edit?
I'm sorry? Oh yeah, so the question is if I'm using macro lens for my composite photography or not, right?
Yes, and do you find advantage?
If I find an advantage. Well, to be honest, I don't own a macro lens. But I think if you, well, these type of setups are not that often. I don't really shoot like teeny tiny details that often, maybe like pretty rare, like once in a while. So I don't own a macro lens, but if I would be using it frequently, that maybe I would consider purchasing one. But I think for my purposes, that's good enough. I mean, I can blow it up a bit, maybe enhance the details, that's fine. It's not an issue for me. But yeah, I don't own a macro lens, and usually my props are, bigger. Okay, let me copy the files. Double check that I got everything. Yeah. Okay, while they're copying, plug the computer. And I'm gonna put the stuff over here for now. And this lipstick feels terrible, so I'm going to wipe it. I kind of hate it, so I'm going to wipe it off. And let me grab the mirror. No, it's stuck. Oh, was there? It usually takes, I have more time usually to do self-portraiture. So that's okay. It's part of the show. Okay. Now I look like I actually ate. Some berries and my lips are stained now. Well, you guys will have to deal with it. And look at me like this. All right. Sorry about that. All right. Okay, it's connected. So you don't have to look at my browser, just look at my website for now. And let me grab my pen tablet for editing. I'm gonna set it up real quick because I don't know about you guys, but I can't do editing without pen tablet. Highly recommend if you don't own one and you've never tried. No, it's fine. It's fine. Just going to move it a bit this way. No, it's fine. Oh, thank you. Thank you. And the cable. It's funny because, I don't know, every time I do self-portraiture somewhere on location, it's a show every time. I remember one time I was in Iceland with my husband and we went, but actually there's this photo right there with the plane, this one. So we were there on location, like we hiked to the location, and it's a very famous tourist attraction. If you've never been to Iceland, it's very famous, tourist destination. Everybody go there. It's like a crashed plane, American crashed plane from the 70s, and it's been since then. Now it's all, decayed and destroyed, but now it's a tourist spot. Okay, let me unplug the memory card. So anyway, we got to location, and there's a lot of tourists, a lot of photographers with landscape photographers with tripods. Everybody's wearing the tourist gear, and then I show up and I start pulling up the huge paper plane out of my backpack, and I put my pilot goggles and a hat and a scarf, and my husband starts taking picture. It was so funny because everybody's like, and they gathered behind my husband and started taking pictures of me as well, which I don't mind. Yeah, usually I don't mind. That's fine.
Sorry, quick question, Anya. So on all those pictures you have on your website, it's you?
Okay, so the question if all those pictures on my website is me, well, yeah, the top two, no, this one is not me. But the first two rows, yeah, that's all me. If you see a blue-haired girl, that's most likely me. But yeah, if you scroll down, so this is not me, obviously. This is not me. This is also not me, but this is not me. But you see what I mean. If you see blue hair, that's 90% chance it is me. All right, it's just it happens so that my most favorite pictures are self-portraits. Okay, let's do this. My mouse, okay. Okay, so here are my files. And I'm going to start, well, actually, you know what? Let's open them up in what's going on? In an image browser. There you go. And let's choose the one that I like. I think the last one was pretty good. yeah, the first 3 are tests. Okay. Yeah, I like these 2. Yeah, this one is, this one is not in focus, so this is definitely not. Not a fan of hand positioning. So these 2 I like. Both of them are good. Let's take this one. This one is fine. So I'm not going to, usually I edit the whole set just in case I might need to pull out pieces from different photos so they already, all edited. But for the purpose of this demonstration, I'm going to do just one. And I'm going to choose a couple of blueberries. Just need to make sure that, they're in focus. Because this one, no, yeah, it is. Oh, it looks good. All right, I think I like this one, and this is like the biggest, the closest shot that I got. So I'm going to choose these 2, or maybe this one, and I'm going to open them in Lightroom because I photograph in RAW, so we need to process these images first. So I'm going to import them in Lightroom and do some quick edits. Here they are. Go to develop mode.
They're asking if that's a Wacom tablet.
Yes, it's a Wacom tablet Intuos Pro, medium size. Okay, so what I usually do in Lightroom, I'm going to be real quick with this. I don't want to spend too much time on the Lightroom, but what I usually do, like my go-to process in Lightroom, I usually change the profile from Adobe Color to whatever my camera profile is. I know I just like the Nikon colors for some reason a little bit better. I feel like I tend to gravitate towards less contrast and muted tones, and I feel like Nikon colors are a bit less contrasted. So I go to Portrait. And what I usually do, like the exposure is fine. It's not too dark, not too bright. Maybe, again, I gravitate towards cooler tones. So I will shift the color temperature, make the image cooler.
So they're asking why process them in Lightroom instead of Photoshop.
Good question. You mean like Canva Raw? I don't know. I just like, because usually, like in general, as a rule of thumb, my like from the photo shoot, I would have maybe like 200 images set, and I feel like if I would do that in Canva Raw, that would be like a lot images. Plus, I might go to Lightroom, process the whole set, and then close it and come back to it the next day and tweak the colors. Go over the whole set again. But in Canva Raw, I'm not sure you can do that because Lightroom gives me more flexibility in terms of like working with catalogs and keeping all my photo shoots right there in the system, because oftentimes I would go back to some previous photo shoot and pull up the colors, meaning I would like create a preset based on that photo shoot. So, I can go back and forth all sorts of photo shoots. And if you go to my library, well, okay, it's not my work computer, but on my desktop computer at home, you would see like all the photo shoots for the years with, saved settings. I don't know, I just find it useful. Okay, so what I usually do, I expand my dynamic range by reducing highlights and increasing shadows a bit. Maybe I feel like it's a bit too bright. Something like this is good. And I would crop it. All my work is square. There's no specific reason why, just my personal preference, like artistic choice. So I go to crop tool and choose 1 by 1. Oops, no, 1 by 1. 1 by 1 and crop it to a square. Whites, blacks, everything looks good. I don't need, to increase saturation, nothing like this. So I go straight to tone curve. And in tone curve, again, this is like my signature style of way of editing. I would create 2 points, one for the, go back. One in the shadows, just slightly pull it down, and one for the highlights, with just a little bit of contrast. But then what I would do, I would pull down the white point, like this, and pull up the black point for kind of like faded effect. And maybe create one right here to kind of like slightly like flatten and even out the shadows on the face. So something like this. And then I go to color mixer. So the idea is to kind of like keep the image monochrome, meaning I'm keeping all the blues, kind of like one shade of blues. So what I would do, first of all, my hair is a little bit on the green side. So I would go to, first of all, yellows, because a lot of these greenish tones, they live in yellow color, and maybe move its hue. And like see the tips of my hair getting red. Well, I don't need red, but I can just desaturate it like this to kill out some of those greens. Then go to greens and also see, maybe make them cooler, kind of like more tealish green, and again desaturate. The aqua tones, I feel I want it to be slightly more teal, and the blue, same thing. Something like this. I don't have any purples or magentas in my image, but sometimes you see how the like navy blue, it lives in purple oftentimes. So again, I'm going to, and again, if we look at the blueberry, it tends to be darker and more like desaturated. So I'm going to get my prop as close as possible. So I'm going to darken it, and also the blue color. There you go. So it's kind of like easier for me to then put the actual blueberry on top of that. All right, I think it's good. So here's before and after. And then I like to do some color grading. I go to highlights and I tone my highlights into a cool tone. Something like this. I choose blue. Saturation, I think it looks good. Maybe like a little bit more of a blend. Slightly less saturation. Okay, I like it. I like the toning. I won't do any toning for shadows or midtones. I think it looks good. Detail, I skip the detail because I think it's pretty sharp. I don't need like, it looks pretty good to me. Lens correction, maybe enable the profile and choose Nikon camera in here, so it fixes any like lens distortion. And then transform, again, I need transform, I don't need lens blur, so I go to effects and I add a little bit of vignette. And then, oops, and then I go to camera calibration. And in camera calibration, I usually like to shift the hue of the blue channel to the left. But now my skin tones are a bit too red, so I go to red and move it hue slightly to the right. I feel like my skin is now way too saturated for my taste, so I reduce the saturation of this channel. And maybe compensate it a bit with the green, so it's not too desaturated. Okay, let's see. Before and after. Now I can see that it kind of like killed some of that, you know, darkness of my prop. So I go back to color mixer and maybe darken it a bit more. Like this. And maybe slightly greener tint. Something like this. And I feel like it's a bit too bright, so let's move the exposure. And maybe increase the shadows a bit more to open up those shadows. And another thing, again, I don't like my skin tones, so I go to orange. And maybe like bright. Yes. Oh, there was a question? Yeah, go. I'm sorry?
Which screen is closest to what you're looking at?
Okay, the question was like which screen is, in terms of color, which is the closest?
On the right, it's more on the right. The screen on the left was looking lower. Because it's the actual screen. Oh.
Yeah, that one looks good to me from over here in terms of color. Pretty close. Okay, I feel like it's good. I mean, I'm not going to spend way too much time. I just want to give you guys the idea of the process that I usually do. So let's see the before and after of all the edits in Lightroom. I don't know, maybe I went a bit too far with the shadows, but again, it's just my personal preference to kind of like less contrast, go with the less contrast, but there's no like, doesn't mean you have to. All right. I think it looks good. So now what I want to do, I want to apply all these settings to the rest of the photos. So I'm going to select them all right here down in the film strip with the shift key. And right here I have this button synchronize. So I click on it, I check all, and I click synchronize. So now all the edits are applied to all the photos from the set. So when I have like 200 images, I just, batch edit all the images all together. And then if I feel like I might go through all of them and tweak maybe exposure or color balance if I need to. Like here, for example, I feel like I want this to be a little bit more centered, so I fix the crop. And let's go on. No, I want it this way. There you go. And click on this, and instead of sync, now I have the previous, so I click previous, and it applies all the settings from the previous photo. There you go. Okay, so now I need to export them. So I select them all, and I right-click for the export. And usually, like my, again, go-to settings would be I would export them in TIFFs. I would put them in subfolder and name the subfolder TIFF. And I would choose like Adobe, RGB, and 16-bit. But that would be like a perfect, scenario. If I like at home, I have my desktop computer, like I have a powerful computer at home. But because today I'm working from a laptop and it's not the most, it's an old laptop, it's not the most powerful. So for the sake of this presentation, I'm going to export them in JPEGs because TIFFs I tend to be heavy and they, use a lot of computer resources and it's going to be slow. We don't want that. So just for the sake of this presentation, I'm going to export them in JPEGs. I choose sRGB like a standard FOAP color space sRGB. I'm going to put it in subfolder and call it JPEG. Make sure that it's not resized. I still want the original size, and I usually export in 300 pixels per inch. And I click export. And it's going to take a few seconds right here. There's like a process bar. And while it's doing this, maybe there are questions. Don't be shy. Okay, I'll sip the coffee then.
Okay.
Oh, I can see somebody said in chat, it's Nikon. Of course it's sharp. Okay, almost done. Done. All right, so I go back to my image browser. Here's my folder, JPEG, and here are my images. Okay, I'm going to close Lightroom now and go to the Photoshop. No, I'm not gonna back up for now. Let me close the browser for now and open up the Photoshop. Can you please tell me how much time do I have left? It ends at 6.
No,
Can I go a little over 6?
Okay. Place closes at 7.
Oh.
Let's,
I mean, if you guys want to, we can stay till 7. I don't mind. I don't want to go back outside. It's horrible out there. It's like 100 degrees. Oh my God. I had to pull a full face of makeup and curl my hair and go out, and it was like, like my face was sliding down slowly. It was horrible. All right. Okay, so here's my Photoshop. So I'm going to open this image in Photoshop by dragging and dropping. All right. So the first thing I always do when I edit, I do a layer copy because I want my editing to be non-destructive. So I always want to keep my, original image untouched. So I hit Control-J for a layer copy. You can see right here on the right at the layer panel. And the first thing that I would like to do, usually I go to Liquify to do a little bit of shaping. Not that I need much, but maybe we can like fix some things here, just a few things. Maybe like, I don't know, give me a full of hair. I use forward warp tool, so I just, kind of like a finger, and I just pull the pixels. Yeah, I mean, not much for the liquify filter here. Maybe like give the prop a more like sphere shape, but again, it's not necessarily we're gonna cover it with the blueberry on top anyway. Okay, but that's pretty much it. So usually I do liquify first. I do all the shaping because it's, I'm moving pixels. And then on top of that, I do any sorts of retouching. And for that, I either, again, create a layer copy or create a new empty layer by hitting this icon right here. So I create a new layer copy, not copy, sorry, like a new empty layer. And the first thing that I notice is this, cord from my microphone. I want to remove that, obviously. We don't need that. And to do that, I'm going to use the remove tool. And I usually use it in auto mode. And because I'm working on the empty layer, I make sure that I have sample all layers checked. And what I do, let's uncheck the remove after each stroke. And when you use remove tool and you're removing things, make sure that you also select the shadow that the object that you're removing casts, and any like reflections. Because if you keep the shadow, Photoshop will think that there needs to be something to cast that shadow, so it might generate something on top. We don't want that. We don't want the cord to be completely gone. Oh, and I have my touch on. I don't want that. Okay. So I'm going a little bit over my object as well, not just the shadow, but like a little bit over to give Photoshop some space. And I click OK. And Photoshop should automatically like analyze the image and generate new pixels on top of it to cover up my microphone. There you go, almost perfect. So I can still think, let me zoom in, still a few things here. So that's okay. I just paint over and click OK. And right here, you can see this is what I meant. There was probably some shadow from the microphone cord there. So I need to go over again.
Someone's asking, why did you export the files from Lightroom instead of just opening them in Photoshop via Lightroom?
I guess you could do that, but again, because normally my set contains like at least 100 images, and I like to export them all first and then do my selection. Like I do the color grading, I can see like how it, looks like with all the color grading applied to it. And then again, I might, oh, I didn't see that. I think I'm all dirty. Okay, well, while I'm answering, let me clean up myself. So I like to, again, maybe I export my images today and 2 days later, I decide to continue working on this image. So I go back and I do my selection and I open it in Photoshop. I don't know, I just feel like for me, it works better to kind of like separate all the steps from each other, because sometimes it might take me multiple days to edit the photo. Maybe I'll edit for 30 minutes today and for 30 minutes the next day. Just works for me this way. All right, it's much better. Okay, is this dirt on my screen or is it dirt on my, no, it's my screen. Okay, it's a good idea to clean up your screen because it happened to me before. Like, oh, is this dirt or it's on the image? All right, what else? I think I want to remove my eye bags. Let's try the remove tool. Work its magic. Ooh, I like it. It's, oh my God, it's incredible. I hate it and I like it. I'm wearing contacts, so my eyes is a little bit dry and red. And you can see like a little bit of contact thing here, so I want to remove that. Again, I'm not going to spend too much time because usually it might take me, an hour to do just retouching part, because I really like to be like very annoying and 200 zoom crop and do every single pore and every single like flyaway hair. We're not going to do it today, but maybe like the shadow from my hair on the forehead. Not cute. And I kind of hate my smile lines, but I'm not going to remove them completely because that's going to look unnatural. I just want to soften them. But what I do, I'm going to remove them completely first, or at least, let Photoshop do that for me, and then erase back some of that. Oh, actually did a pretty good job. So maybe brush back a little bit. I'm taking that razor tool with 50% opacity, slightly brush it back. And maybe try one more time real quick. I would also like spend some time and remove some of the flyaways, especially like here on my neck, to just like, tidy it up. But I'm not gonna do it today. We're here for the transformation, not the retouching part. Okay, I think it looks good. So now let's do the blueberry part. It's always a good idea to save in the middle of your process. Save it in the PSD. Okay, and now let me pull up my blueberries. I kind of like this one, like slightly rotated. Here it is. Okay, so I'm going to open this image in Photoshop. And because I don't need the whole image, I just need this, part of it. So I'm grabbing an elliptical marquee tool, selecting it slightly over the berry, and I will deal with it later. I'm taking the move tool, grabbing and dropping it onto my image. It's smaller, which is fine. I'm clicking Control T for free transformation. You know what, before that, I want to be able to see both the blueberry, actual blueberry, and the prop to see where I should position exactly the blueberry, shape over shape. So to do that, I'm going to reduce the opacity of the layer. Now I can see kind of like both what's going in the background and my layer. Control T for free transformation. And now I can just scale it up. I can see that the prop was not a perfect sphere, I guess. So I pull it down to cover the prop completely. Okay. Now I'm going to bring back the opacity back to 100%, and that's actually a shortcut key to do that. So when I have any of my selection tools active, kind of like move tool, the marquee tool, or maybe lasso tool, so any of like the first group of selecting tools, and I hit a number on my keyboard, it changes the opacity of the layer. So right now my layer is 45%. If I hit 3, it's going to change the opacity to 30%. 8 for 80, and 0 for 100. It's very convenient. So now I need to mask it. I need to remove all these like edges, right? We can't keep them, obviously. So instead of like erasing them, again, for the non-destructive editing, I'm going to use masks. So I'm going to kind of like cover. Mask is basically like a cover. I'm covering the layer. I'm not deleting any of the information. So to do that, I'm going to select my blueberry first, and I'm going to use the quick selection tool. Because it's pretty contrasted, like the berry is much darker than the background, plus it's a pretty simple shape, so the quick selection tool should work pretty fine. Right there, that's it. The only thing that I would do, I would go up here in the top panel to select and mask, to kind of like refine my selection a little bit, make it smoother. So right here, so Photoshop remembers the previous settings, automatically keeps them. So I've already used that before. That's why I have these settings not set to 0, but some, number. And I would choose like smooth and feather. To kind of like smooth the shape, and click OK. And now I'm going to apply a mask by hitting this little icon right here. And Photoshop will apply a mask based on my selection. So here's the alt click, here's my mask. And now, of course, I need to, bring back my fingers to create the realistic effect. But instead of working on this mask, because I want to keep the sphere just in case, because this sphere is what I'm going to keep for the berry. But I want two separate masks. I want one mask for the berry, for the blueberry, and another mask for, covering my fingers. To do that, I'm going to create a group. Here's a group. I'm going to put this layer into the group, and I'm going to click on the group and apply a mask to the group. Grab a brush with black color. And again, quick little tip, when you want to change the opacity of the tool, like brush, clone stamp, what else, like bucket tool, and you hit a number on the keyboard, it's going to change the opacity of your tool, not the layer. So I have my brush tool selected, and I hit 0, and it changes the opacity to 100%. And now I can work separately. I can mask my fingers without touching the mask of the blueberry. I hope it makes sense. So I'm going to paint over, like very loosely, very roughly, like this. And now I don't have to worry about that sphere-shaped mask. I can just switch back to white color and just brush around my fingers. And I switch between colors by hitting letter X on my keyboard. See, like black and white right there. Switching between them. So I'm going to be switching between black and white constantly. If I went a little bit over, I'm switching to black. If I'm revealing my mask back around my fingers, I switch it to white. All right, I think looks good. Okay, now what I need to do, I turn off the group to see my prop. And now on my prop, I can see that because I was holding it, my hand kind of like created this deep dark shadow between the hand and the prop. And that's telling me that the same thing needs to be happening right here on my blueberry. But because there was no hand on the actual blueberry, I need to create that shadow, right? And now to do that, I'm going to create a curves adjustment layer right here down in the layer panel. Go here and I create curves adjustment, and I'm going to pull the RGB curve down to darken. But as you can see now, this curves adjustment is applied on the whole image because it's on top of everything, so it applies on every layer underneath the curves, right? But I want this curves to be only applied to my blueberry layer. Let me name it blueberry for convenience. Blueberry. I hope I spelled it right. Okay, so now you can see the blueberry layer. And to do that, I'm going to click on my curves again, and I'm going to create a clipping mask by hitting this little icon down here in the properties panel. So now my curves layer are clipped to my blueberries layer, and it only affects the blueberries layer. So now when I change the curve, you can see how it only applies to the blueberry layer. So I pull it down, I darken it, right? But I want only tiny section right here on the arm, right? So I hit Control-I to invert the mask from white to black, completely like covering the layer, grabbing my brush with white color and revealing it right here. Okay, and because I have my curves as an adjustment, I can always, click it on and off and see maybe I can, darken it even further. And I feel like that's the case. I want it to be darker. And let's see. Can you see it? Looks much better, I think. more realistic. All right, what else? What else? One thing that I can see that we didn't cover, these kind of like wires completely, and that's fine. I go back to my empty layer where I was doing all the retouching, and I can either grab clone stamp tool and like simply cover this whole thing. We just need the background information. I can see that it's a little bit, I can see the brush kind of like smudge over there. So I'm taking healing brush and smoothing this transition a little bit. All right, I think looks good. And let me turn the group back on. All right, and I think looks good. Let me double check the mask. You can see like a little halo around the blueberry, like a little bright thing, which we do not want. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to click on the mask and I'm going to filter other, and it's either going to be maximum or minimum. I always forget which one is like expands and which one like shrinks. Let's try minimum. Yeah, you see how it like shrinked my mask a little bit, but of course not this far. So maybe like 2-3 pixel radius. Let's see, maybe 5. Yeah, I think 5 looks good. Okay, can you see right there the difference? Let me go back in history. There you go. So before and after. And that's pretty much it. We got the blueberry. I think it looks pretty realistic. Maybe I would do a little bit of retouching on the blueberry. So here's my blueberry, right? And I'm going to create an empty layer on top. And again, I want it to be clipped to my blueberry just in case I don't go over. So to clip the empty layer, because we don't have a properties panel for an empty layer, I hold Alt or Option key on Mac. And if I move my cursor between the layers, you can see a little arrow icon with a square. I click and now my empty layer is clipped to the blueberry. And now I can do, like remove these scratches or something to make it even more like perfect and smooth. Not necessary, but I found that doing this, like clean up props in the background, really helps to make you like polish your image, give it like more polished and professional look. Something like this. I think looks better this way. All right, Control S to save. I think that's it. It's already 6:20. I mean, unless you guys want to stay till 7, I don't mind. Seth is like, no.
Air conditioning.
I want to go home. All right, any questions? Yes.
Quick question.
Sure.
The narrative thread. There seems to be something happening with your portfolio. Where does that come from? The story behind your images.
So kind of like inspiration.
Yeah.
Okay, so the question was where I get my inspiration from, kind of like the stories and good question. I'm inspired by different things. Like I mentioned before, I'm inspired by, traveling and landscapes and nature and, just go out, experience unique places out there in the world. That's one of my biggest source of inspirations. When I see a cool place, I instantly think of how I can use it as a setup, as a part of my concept. So let me pull up my website real quick. Another source of inspiration for me is cinematography and literature. As I mentioned before, Tim Burton was my, one of my favorite directors, and I have like one image is inspired by one of his cartoons, this one. Also like mythology, fairy tales, mythical creatures. I have a lot of images with like unicorns, mermaids, kind of like my own interpretations. I transform girls into like deer and, like creature animals. Like this one is deer. I have another one where she's like mama sheep, kind of like, because this is ram horns, this is male horns, but whatever, it's fantasy. It doesn't have to be true to life. But also I find that just experiencing art in any sort of form, any medium, really helps you kind of like build this inner library and catalog of different things that you can pull inspiration from. Because, you know, let's be honest, every single artist is inspired by something else. We don't invent anything new. We just draw inspiration from here and there and interpret and transform it in our own way. So either you like go to gallery, go to an exhibition, experience their art, trying to analyze why you like it, why other people like it, what's good about it, what's kind of like drawing attention, what's about it. If you like cinematography, then watch, you know, good movies, and then eventually, in time, you will build this kind of like inner library of different elements, and at one point it just comes to you, if it makes sense. So now that I see, if I go, for example, to an arts and crafts store and I see a thing, for example, let me see this one. I went to an arts and crafts store and I see this giant like foam sphere that they use for floral arrangements. And then I saw a big chunky yellow yarn and I was like, I can create a ball of yarn and I can turn my subject into this kind of like symbolic seasonal creature that knits the fabric of fall out of the fallen foliage type of concept. Did I answer the question? Yeah. Are we good? Any other questions maybe? Like a couple of more and we good? If there's any chat. Do you show your work in a gallery? Not in any specific gallery, but I've done group shows before, like one-time shows. I would love to be represented by a gallery, but that's not the case at the moment. But I would love to, if there are any galleries out there. Okay, the question is about my website, if I did myself or something. No, I done it myself. It's just a standard like Squarespace template. I'm using Squarespace and just one of their templates, and it's pretty basic, to be honest. I just use dark background and different pages for like gallery, and you see some, click on the process and watch YouTube videos of, you know, behind the scenes, or go to like events page. It's just standard Squarespace. There's another question. Do you work with a lot of brands for creative works? Not always, but yeah, sometimes I do with brands. Like I have a relationship with Nikon, so sometimes I do work for them. Sometimes I collaborate with like lighting equipment companies. Not always, but yeah, I do. I also do a lot of work with other creatives, like collaborate with like makeup artists and maybe like stylists, or maybe like I commission other people who are more crafty than me to create props for me. I would, you know, pay money to them to create props for me. All right. Yes.
Did you come from a graphic design background and then got into photography, or did you find yourself getting into photography and then needing to start to learn the ins and outs of Photoshop, because there's so many bells and whistles to it, to where like it seems like you're very confident exactly in what moves you're doing quick.
Okay, so the question, I need to repeat it for the online audience. The question was that if I'm coming from the graphic design background, or did I start photography first? The question is no, I don't come from graphic design background, but I've been doing Photoshop for over 15 years now. And I was still in college and I was trying to figure out what to do with my life. And I was always like kind of like a creative person. I've been, you know, a little bit good at drawings and paintings. So I thought about becoming a graphic designer, maybe like a web designer or a graphic designer. So I started learning Photoshop before photography. It was maybe like a year before photography. I was learning like how to do, you know, layers, like I did icons. Then I got my first pen tablet, like a really small one, and I tried to like do digital paintings on that. But then I discovered photography, And because I never went to an art school, I don't really have even like an art or photography education. I'm a self-taught, and because I've never went to an art school, I never learned how to draw properly or to paint. You know, I can copy if I look at the image and I can copy it onto the paper, but that's pretty much it. So photography was kind of like an easy way for me to create images, because, you know, it's a click of a button and then you have an image. But then I've always wanted to create something beyond that. I wanted to, you know, explore different techniques. And then I thought, maybe I can use Photoshop to kind of like expand on that and introduce myself to compositing. All right. I think that's it. Okay. Let's take a look at our image one last time. I think it's good. Maybe one last thing that I would do here, I would create another curves adjustment. Let's try it really quick. Oops. Pull it down. Control I to invert the mask. Grab a brush and maybe create like a deeper shadow. Oops. Kind of like a deeper shadow underneath, but not on my hand. So brush back from the hand. Kind of like a slightly deeper shadow. Okay, let's see the before and after. Here's before Photoshop edits and after. All right, I think that's it. Thank you so much for coming. Thank you.